This week on Quality Digest Live, we chat with Randy Groover of Boeing and the CMSC about metrology certification.
Plus, some novel and life-saving uses for cell phones. That and more when we come back.
This episode of Quality Digest Live is brought to you by Mitutoyo America. Whatever your metrology challenges, Mitutoyo supports you from start to finish.
And welcome back to Quality Digest Live for Friday, November 18th, 2016. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest publisher, Mike Richmond. All right, well, we're going to start the show this week with an uplifting and supportive little article titled "Your Ideas Are a Little Dumb, and So Are Mine" by Justin Novak. He's a metrologist at Norfolk News Shipbuilding. The article appeared in Monday's issue. You can see it right there, Monday's issue of Quality Digest Daily. Now, I chuckle a little bit as I said. Well, sure, why not? Because it's funny. But I chuckled as I said supportive and uplifting just before I rattle off the name of the article, which on first reading would seem to be anything but. But this article actually is supportive and uplifting for a couple of reasons. First, Justin Novak, he writes really, really well. If you haven't read the piece, do yourself a favor and check it out. I mean,
there's some funny stuff in there.
Funny stuff, really well written, very
really well written,
smoothly written, very easy read, fun read, so check that one out. Second, and more important, I think, beneath the well-crafted language are some powerful points about diversity and inclusion. Two politically correct words that don't necessarily always play as well together as one might think and maybe hope. Without question, as Novak writes, our culture is diverse, but it's not always inclusive.
Which is interesting.
Which is interesting. A really interesting point he made there. Yeah. Our culture is diverse, not always inclusive, and that's really where his brilliant idea about dumb ideas comes in. Ideas, of course, are not facts, as he points out, and we all know that, I think. We maybe forget it sometimes. Every day, we all have lots and lots and lots and lots of ideas pouring out of us, ideas about our work and our politics, our relationships, our values, our intentions, our dreams, and a lot of other R's. Few of these ideas are rooted in anything that can be called a fact, but that doesn't really matter. Our ideas, more than our facts, really make us who and what we are. And in the workplace, I think it's easy and maybe inevitable that you're going to be confronted with ideas that you think are, well, dumb. I mean, I don't know a better way to put it.
What can you say?
It's the nature of the beast. I mean, lots and lots of ideas are dumb. I mean, lots and lots of ideas are dumb, yours included and mine included. That's important to remember. And that's really where diversity rears its beautiful head. Your background and mine aren't the same. Believe it or not, Dirk, we have different backgrounds, right? Nobody would have known it. So it's natural that the ideas that evolve from those different backgrounds are going to be different as well. But if we want to be inclusive, and this isn't just the PC me talking here, I do really think that inclusivity is the universal good, then we've got to accept that diversity in our backgrounds and in our ideas. We've got to accept that, because that means listening, and it means really listening to someone else when they propose something. And that's important because even if you don't like their basic premise, you might find something in their idea that adds to one of your ideas. And there's an even more basic and important reason, I think, why it's so important to respectfully listen to other people when they're sharing their ideas. Because when you show them that respect, they're much more likely to show you the same respect in turn, right? When you spout off about your own perfectly formed, ridiculously dumb idea. And that's really what it comes down to is, his point was a really good one. His idea about inclusivity and diversity being two different things. We don't always assume or understand that they are, but they are. And I think that if we want to have an inclusive workplace, for instance, you gotta accept diversity and understand people are coming from different places and listen to their ideas.
Right, and I like that last little bit there is that you got to understand that everybody's going to have dumb ideas, including yours. Sure. And if you're willing to listen to somebody else's dumb idea, at least consider it, then they're going to be willing to listen to your dumb idea and maybe listen to it, rather than constantly cutting each other off at the knees.
And one other thing, just before we move on, because I think this is important as well.
Because I think it's really dumb.
That's dumb. No, one other thing I think is really important is that today I just heard that the Oxford Dictionary's word of the year, Post-truth. That kind of ties in here a little bit, I think. The idea of facts. Post-truth is the word of the year, which is kind of depressing, but it is their word of the year. So bear that in mind, that ideas and facts and truth are somewhat relative. So bear that in mind.
All right. Moving on. If you watch our show from week to week, you know that we feature a lot of NIST technology on this show, from research, anything from research on various measurement technologies to their zero energy home, which I think is really fascinating, to breakthroughs in nanotechnology, their work on SI, and actually a whole lot more. And you may wonder, with a budget of about $1 billion, just what happens with all that research? Where's your tax dollars going? Is it just research for research's sake? Well, maybe some of that, but really, once research reaches a certain point, a certain maturity level, or a certainty in the technology or the results, it's time to really make it pay off, right? Leverage that $1 billion into something much bigger. And this is where NIST's Technology Transfer Program comes in, run by NIST's Technology Partnerships Office. The goal is to take research in technologies and discoveries made by NIST scientists and help in the commercialization of those results. And how do they do that? Well, we're really pleased to have with us on the show today Paul Zielinski, Director of the Technology Partnerships Office at NIST, to tell us. Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hi, Mike and Dirk. Thank you very much for inviting me today. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, great. So just briefly, before we get into the other questions, just what is the Technology Transfer Program?
So technology transfer is actually, just like what you were just talking about, actually a very simple concept in many different ways. We spend a lot of money in the federal government on research and development. As you mentioned, NIST budget is about $1 billion. You look government-wide, you're over $130 billion. And a really simple concept is, at the end of the day, we might do research on manufacturing, but we don't make anything. And so for these different products and services to reach the consumer, to reach the American public that funded this research, we have to transfer. We have to get this in the hands of a company, a private company, that's going to actually make and sell products that you can buy. And that's really where we're focused in our technology transfer program. We have a lot of different ways to do that, but at the end of the day, it's all focused on the same thing. It's how do we get the results of our research program out into the public sector?
So Paul, step us through how that works. Does NIST make some sort of industry announcement regarding a technology? Do companies contact you? What happens at that point?
Sure, we have a lot of different ways that we like to use to get our technologies out there. I mean, obviously we put out standards, we work with standards bodies, but in the United States, of course, a lot of those standards, they're public standards, they're not necessarily just set by NIST. So that's, of course, one of our main things that we do. But we do a lot of other things. We certainly do patent things. We have inventions, we have joint inventions with many folks. And so we will patent those things and we will license them off, and hopefully someone can take those and run with them and create a company. We have a lot of different tools to work in partnership with people. So, we don't have all of the ideas out there, certainly. We'd love to work with other parties that can come in and collaborate with us. Hopefully they can learn something from us and take that research out there and make something within their company that's going to actually benefit the public. We've got a lot of informal relationships. We have formal relationships. We have user facilities. We have lots of different ways, hopefully, that we can reach the public with some of these things that they've already really paid for with their tax dollars for research programs here at NIST.
Well, okay, so you just said something really interesting there about they've already paid for it with the tax dollars. So if a company sees something or reads about something that NIST has done some work on, looks like it might be ready for commercialization, do you just give that to them? I mean, they could make the argument, hey, we already paid for it, just give us that. Or do they pay for a license? Is there a patent transfer or something like that? I mean, kind of what does a company get when they come to NIST and say, we like that technology, we want to try to incorporate that into a product?
Sure, and so the whole concept here, when you get down to something like patent and licensing, is actually kind of interesting. So Congress gave us the ability to patent things. And their whole policy statement, if you read it, basically comes down to the idea that business operates in the world of intellectual property. They patent things, and they'd use that intellectual property to call forth their private investment. And so that's really the same concept that we're actually working with. We want to work with industry in the way that they work, not necessarily in the way that the government works. So no, we're not trying to do defensive patenting. We don't do things to try to keep things from the marketplace or to keep it to ourselves. Our patenting and licensing is really directed towards trying to get things out there. We don't want the government to have to keep paying for everything. We can't afford to fund every single product into full development and release to the public. We need private investment to come in. We need entrepreneurs. We need businesses that are looking to expand their product lines. And so we will patent things, and then we actually have a defined product that we can then transfer. If you look at our royalties, we're not trying to make a killing. Some would argue that we should charge more royalties, I'm sure. That's not the point of what we're trying to do. The point is actually trying to bring some funding back and reward the folks that do it, to do the inventing and try to call forth those inventions and actually get them to think about those inventions. But generally, it's a matter of really trying to work with companies and try to get them to invest their time, their effort, their resources in trying to launch something that, might be a great idea from NIST, but it's going to require more work to get out there in the marketplace. And that's really what we're trying to call forth.
So, now, what I just described, that was like, let's say, a technology that's it's pretty much done. You know how it's going to work, and I think you're going to give us some examples pretty here. But suppose somebody's watching our show, and we've talked about some research that NIST is doing on some sort of optical technology, and it's still in the research phase, but it piques somebody's interest. Can a private party get involved in the research to kind of co-develop it? Or is it really one of those things, wait till NIST is done and then you pick it up from there?
Oh, absolutely. People can get involved. We actually got a very effective mechanism. We can do, like I said, anything from very formal to very informal. We have a thing called a Cooperative Research and Development Agreement. Really, any federal lab can do these things. It's a very broad authority for us to partner with pretty much anybody. We can private companies, universities, state and local governments, very wide open. And we can actually do joint research. Now, when you think about what we're going to do, it's got to be mission oriented. So we're not going to basically change our mission to do whatever anybody wants us to do. We're actually trying to do things, accomplish what we're told by Congress to do and by the president. But at the same time, if you think about it as a journey and we're walking in the right direction, sure, we're happy to walk with someone a while, and hopefully they take a benefit out of that. Because again, the goal of our research is to get people to use that work. It's not to keep it in a box, it's not to keep it away from folks. We want people to commercialize that work. We want to make it available to the public.
Okay, and finally, Paul, can you give us an example of some technology that was developed by NIST that has now been, commercialized or is in a product?
Sure. NIST has a very broad mission, as you've already been talking earlier. You've had several of the different areas that we work on, so we cover a lot of different things. So if you think about some of the NIST products, a couple examples might be, we have a RoboCrane technology. It actually came out of our engineering laboratory looking at advanced manufacturing type of applications, and actually is being used by a company in the cleanup over in Chernobyl and over at the Fukushima nuclear reactor after the earthquake in Japan. So it's actually, a very adaptable tool in order to go into places that, you don't want to send people into those things to do that cleanup operation. Shifting to a totally different area, for example, we also have things like for breast phantom. So if you're going to go through an MRI machine because you're worried about a cancer or something, or a tumor, you want to make sure that the results of that are accurate. And so, for example, we've developed phantoms. You can make sure that your machine is actually giving you the readings that you expect for those machines to be giving you, and making sure that the patient's going to receive the right type of treatment. But again, we've done many, many different types of inventions, not all of which are always patented, but we try to work with any way we can in order to get those technologies out of NIST and then over to the consumer.
All right, well, that's all really interesting, Paul. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is Paul Zielinski, Director of the Technology Partnerships Office over there at the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Paul, thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks,
have a good
Paul.
day.
Good stuff there. Yeah,
all right.
Always interesting to hear from NIST and how they develop technologies. It's a very fascinating process. It is a very much a mesh between government and private enterprise, yep. and really that does bring forth a lot. NIST has done a lot over the years to bring forth technologies that are
yep.
used in products all over the world. So it's pretty interesting
well,
stuff.
Speaking of technology, we have another technology story coming up here. Has to do with mining. And although underground mining is really a lot safer than it was, let's say, 40 years ago, it's still a dangerous job, and particularly so because often if you have a catastrophic mining disaster, and boy, we've had a few of them in the last
sure.
half dozen years, if a catastrophic mining disaster does happen, people on top don't necessarily know where mine personnel were located at the time of the accident, which makes rescue a little bit more problematic than, say, other industrial accidents where you know where it's at. Right. So as Sudeep Pasricha points out in his article, Deep Underground, Smartphones Can Save Miners' Lives, most mine accidents occur in a structurally diverse underground mines with an extensive labyrinth of interconnected tunnels. And as mining progresses, workers move machinery around, which creates this continually changing environment. And this makes search and rescue efforts even more complicated than they might otherwise be. Now, yes, there is federal regulation which requires two-way communications between miners trapped underground and rescuers on the surface. There's regulations that require tracking individual miners so responders know where they need to dig. But so far, efforts to design systems that are both reliable and resilient, and let's also put in there cost-effective, when disaster strikes, have run into significant roadblocks. Let's say the most straightforward methods are wired systems. But the problem there is pretty obvious, right? In a mine collapse, what happens to any cabling?
Yeah, it's going to be cut off.
It's going to be cut off, right? More than likely. Yeah. So this is where work by Pasricha and his partners bear fruit, using, of all things, smartphones. Now you're thinking, oh, sure, GPS or Wi-Fi or whatever. Well, no, GPS, Wi-Fi, none of that really works in a well. In a mine, it doesn't work very well or even at all, usually once you get down just not very far. In their system, a wireless network made up of many low-cost stationary Zigbee or Bluetooth sensors are deployed strategically around the mine to create a web or a mesh network that can connect with smartphones carried by the miners. This is kind of like a cellular network, but with a very carefully worked out topology. The exact placement of these fixed sensors is based on an analysis of how radio signals travel in a mine. There's changing, an electrically noisy environment. You can't just install these sensors anywhere, and that's where a lot of the technical things that they keep in mind in the distribution of these. So now then, taking this mesh, this Bluetooth Zigbee network, and using earlier research, Pasricha has algorithms that are possible to measure the strength of the signals the phone is receiving from the various sensors to approximate the distance the phone was from a known sensor, and then use measurements from the phone's inertial sensors. Your phone's all got sorts of little movement sensors in them, and they can determine the speed and direction of movement from those sensors. That helps them locate individuals to within really just a few meters. This isn't unlike how some non-GPS navigation systems work today. This is already being done. Some phones that don't have GPS systems, they still locate you because they triangulate off the various towers and the inertial systems in the phone, and they can locate fairly accurately. This is the same idea, but way, way down inside a mine. So this information would be constantly sent topside, so that in the event of an accident, an accurate location of personnel should be possible. And the nice thing about this system is that unlike bulky, tracky systems used today and their shortcomings, this simply requires a smartphone. And what I'm thinking is finally an app on your smartphone that really does something useful.
Yeah, especially for these providers. That's great.
It's just interesting. I mean, these guys are just going to have their smartphones like they always do. They don't have to issue necessarily special equipment. It's all going to be located with, and I'm assuming you're going to pair your smartphone with the Zigbee or Bluetooth that's down there.
Sure. I mean, to me, this is perfect extension of what you were just talking about with Paul Zielinski about technology transfer. I mean, talk about kind of like an off-label use, right? I mean, this isn't what a cell phone was really designed to do, but it's an application that you can use to save people's lives. Great thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, and nothing special. Zigbee is industry standard. Bluetooth is an industry standard. It's all in the placement and the algorithms in the software.
And you save lives through that. That's, what a great thing. All right, well, thanks, Dirk. Okay, well, every month on this show, as you all probably know if you've been watching us for any period of time, we spend several minutes chatting with members of the Coordinate Metrology Society about the practices, tools, and utility of portable 3D measurement. Close tolerance and large volume metrology solutions are key assets in industry sectors such as aerospace, automotive, energy, fabricated metals, many, many, many more. Every year in July, the Coordinate Metrology Society gathers for their annual conference, the CMSC. This year, the event is going to be held in lovely Park City, Utah. Dirk and I are going to be there.
Looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that one. Should be a beautiful sight. And as always, attendees at the show are going to have the opportunity to not only see the latest and greatest hardware, software, and peripherals in the industry, but they'll also have the chance to connect and interact with their peers. CMSC 2017 is going to offer a measurement zone, an education zone, and dozens of cutting-edge white paper presentations. Oh, and the annual CMSC also offers metrologists a chance to participate in the Society's certification program.
Big deal.
In which they can demonstrate proficiency with basic principles via a written exam, that's a level 1, and then a hands-on assessment with an articulated arm portable CMM, that's a level 2. To tell us more about the group's certification program and these exams and assessments, we're happy now to welcome this month's guest to CMSC Corner. Randy Groover of Boeing is the chair of the Society's certification committee as well. Randy, welcome back to Quality Digest Live.
Yeah, hi Mike, hi Dirk, good to be back.
Yes, of course. Thank you for joining us and telling us a little bit more about CMSC and about certification. So can you briefly start by telling our viewers what's entailed in the level 1 and level 2 assessments?
Yeah, the level 1 assessment is, it's an online cognitive assessment. About 196 questions, covers 5 duty areas, typical to most portable 3D measurement systems. And then the level 2 is a performance-based, as you mentioned. So with a portable arm or now with a laser tracker as well, your performance, collecting a series of measurements on a test artifact, are assessed. So the performance really does speak to your ability to interpret the drawings, decode GD&T, collect all of the data measurements that are required during a typical measurement operation.
And Randy, you mentioned that the level 2 certification, that's the actual hands-on hardware thing, covers a portable CMM. I think you said now you've recently added laser trackers. What other equipment is the committee considering adding for the level 2 in the future?
Yeah, scanners. Yeah, next on our agenda are scanners. We've had some initial conversation. Post-processing of the scan data is kind of a major component of scanners. So there'll be some complexity that we'll have to work through on the best methods to assess somebody's proficiency at processing the data. But scanners definitely next on our agenda.
Now that's laser scanners mounted to, let's say, like a portable arm or any kind of scanner, laser or white light or structured light, whatever.
I'd say yes.
Okay, there we go.
We like that. Succinct answer, that's right. Well, now Randy, in your work with Boeing, you really have a front row seat into the kinds of manufacturing and assembly processes that really call out the importance of personal certification. So from your perspective, what do you see as the key benefits to your company, to Boeing, in having certified metrologists on staff?
Yeah, there's just a never-ending quest to drive efficiencies into manufacturing processes, and certainly the acquisition of data that confirms the build and to the digital data set is a really important element in the manufacturing process. So driving efficiencies into the manufacturing process is a key component that I think 3D metrology certification can help support that. And then there's another facet too, and that's the personnel development piece. So it provides a path for folks to grow their skills and is a great differentiator, or can be, with regards to potential work assignments and opportunities.
And that was, I would imagine that was one of the primary reasons why you and certain people on the CMSC certification committee really came together a few years back and really began this process of engagement with the industry to really launch a certification program. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. We really wanted to provide a path for folks to demonstrate their skills to an industry standard. A level of proficiency that is marketable. It's a portable credential. A real important element is our code of ethics that all of our folks that apply for level 1 are required to commit to following. And then the recertification process every 5 years requires activity in the field, performing the work, and or attending conferences, continued education. So all of those things that enhance your ability to perform well in the world of metrology are elements within the certification.
And I know that you and the committee worked very hard earlier this year, because we talked about it and we covered it to some extent, to complete a 24-page handbook on the program. So when users get that handbook and it's available online, what will they learn, and what will they learn about the process to becoming certified?
Yeah, the handbook is a terrific resource. I use it all the time. When I get questions, I go to the handbook just to make sure I answer correctly. So the handbook details a little bit of the history, when we started this process, some of the process steps we've gone through to make sure this is an academically sound and structured certification. Also, all the steps needed for application, for recertification. You'll find the code of ethics. You'll find the list of proctor sites where you can arrange to take your level 1 assessment if you're not able to participate at one of the conferences each year. So all of that information is there. All the different personal development hours that can be earned to support recertification are also listed in the handbook. So we print those out and make them available at the show each year. And then, of course, it's always available at cmsc.org for download.
That's right. Well, Randy Groover, thank you for joining us. Randy Groover of Boeing and the Coordinate Metrology Society. Thank you again for joining us. As Randy mentioned, www.cmsc.org is the place to go to check out information about the Coordinate Metrology Society, the handbook, the upcoming show, a lot of great stuff on that site, so make sure you check it out. Randy, thanks again for joining us, and if we don't see you before then on the show, we'll see you in July in Park City.
All right, thank you.
Thanks again, Randy. Talk to you soon. Always a great show.
I'm looking forward to that one.
That's a good one. It's not
finally in a fun place.
Fairly close for us, and Nashville was great last year.
Well, Nashville, that's true.
Nashville was great, but I mean, always a great show. We always look forward to that one on our calendar. And if you certainly are in portable coordinate metrology, do things with trackers, as we said, articulated arm CMMs, scanners, check that one out. Check out cmsc.org and check out the show. I think you would enjoy it.
Speaking of NIST.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is a quick one because we just added this actually just about 12 hours ago, added this to the show because it's hot off the wires. The Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award just yesterday, late in the afternoon, announced this year's winners of the award for 2016, and they are as follows. Drum roll, please. In the small business category, Don Chambers Ford in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. They're a Ford Motor Company dealership and service provider. Also in the small business category, Momentum Group of Irvine, California. They're a manufacturer of custom fabrics and textiles. In the healthcare category, Kindred Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Mountain Valley of Kellogg, Idaho. And finally, and last but not least, in the healthcare sector, is the Memorial Herman Sugarland Hospital of Sugarland, Texas. And there you go. Well, great group of winners there. Congratulations to all of them. And really, just as important, congratulations to everybody who applied and received site visits. I mean, we talked to a lot of people who've been involved with the Baldrige. Anybody who's done it will tell you that it's the journey, not the destination, that really matters. The winners deserve a lot of praise and credit, of course, but just going through that is going to make your organization a lot better. So, it's a really great program. We support it very, very thoroughly here.
And interesting, I don't think we've seen a manufacturing Baldrige winner for quite a while. And and of course, 2 healthcare winners. And boy, the healthcare folks have been racking up the Baldrige awards for the last decade.
But Momentum is the first one that really does any assembly or manufacturing we've seen in quite some time.
That we've seen quite some time. Manufacturers had kind of dropped out of Baldrige for a while, so it's actually good to see. And by the way, the fact that a Ford dealership won tells you the Baldrige isn't just for big companies with really deep pockets. I mean, you've got a Ford, and I'm sure it's probably a sizable Ford dealership.
Sure.
But it is just a dealership.
Yeah, and we have dealerships all over the country. We know what they do, but I mean the fact that that particular organization can benefit so much from this process, I think speaks volumes about how it can help different kinds of companies succeed. So be sure to check that out. Great stuff there, as always, from NIST and the Baldrige Award Program. All right, well, that's our show for the week. But before we go, we want to thank our sponsor. Mitutoyo Corporation is the world's largest provider of measurement and inspection solutions, offering the most complete selection of machines, sensors, systems, and services, with a line encompassing CMMs, vision, form, and finish measuring machines, as well as precision tools and instruments, and metrology data management software. Mitutoyo's nationwide network of metrology centers and support operations provides application, calibration, service repair, and educational programs to ensure that their more than 6,000 metrology products will deliver measurement solutions for their customers. For more information, visit mitutoyo.com or click on the banner ad just below or just to the right of this video player screen.
That's right. Well, that is the end of our show today. Thanks to Paul Zielinski of the Technology Transfer Office at NIST, and also to Randy Gruber of Boeing
and CMSC. Yep, that's right.
Joining us.
That's right.
And next week is Thanksgiving, so we won't be here.
We won't be here on Friday, but you all have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your turkey, enjoy your football, and we'll see you back here on December 2nd. It's December already for Quality Digest Live. So we'll see you then.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a good time.
Bye.
I think he's done this a few times.
Sure.